Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome renowned jazz harmonicist, Frederick Yonnet.
Don't be shy. Thank you, thank you. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome your host for the evening, Mr. Jonathan Capehart.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone, and special welcome to the folks joining us virtually tonight on the live stream. And I'm just going to take a point of personal privilege here and to congratulate Robert Rabin for an incredible idea and for this incredible gala. It is a pleasure once again to be joining you as the Master of Ceremonies for the March on Washington Film Festival Opening Night Gala. Before we get to tonight's awards, I'd like to take a moment to recognize the premier sponsors of this year's festival: the Andrew W. Mellon Foundation, Grain Management, the Ford Foundation, Tiffany Sanchez and Reginald Brown, and the Albertsons Companies. A lot of people here, I see. Thank you for your generous support, which has made this year's festival possible. I also want to acknowledge Edens and Union Market for providing us with this great venue and for hosting us here at Dock 5 tonight. With just a cursory glance at today's headlines, it becomes clear that the fight for civil rights is far from over, and our march continues. From widespread efforts to enact voter suppression legislation in the states, to the disparities laid bare by the pandemic, to a violent mob attempting to overturn the results of a free and fair election, it is apparent now more than ever how much work there remains to be done. But this also pulls into sharp focus the vital and necessary role that the March on Washington Film Festival plays inside the civil rights space. The importance of the history it recounts, the strength of the voices it highlights, and most significantly, the action it inspires each of us to take. I know you're looking forward to the educational and entertaining events that are in store for you over the next few days, but tonight, we gather to celebrate three significant voices of the movement. A focused philanthropy group leading with joy, power, and community, the Donors of Color Network. A prolific film editor, producer, director, and screenwriter, Sam Pollard. And an American icon and the House Majority Whip in the United States House of Representatives, Congressman Jim Clyburn of the great state of South Carolina. I also take it as an encouraging sign that you're still here. The March On Awards were created to recognize leaders and organizations across disciplines whose commitment to the advancement of civil rights is unwavering. Through their actions and with courage, they have ignited national conversations, compelled progress, and have used their platforms as instruments for social justice and cultural change. As foot soldiers in the fight against injustice everywhere, we honor their work, commitment, and sustained efforts to continue the march forward. Our first presenter tonight has been at the vanguard of business, art, philanthropy, and service for the past 2 decades. President Obama appointed him to the Board of Trustees of the Kennedy Center. He has been actively involved with the National Cares Mentoring Movement, and most recently, he was appointed by Mayor Muriel Bowser to chair the D.C. Commission on the Arts and Humanities. Please join me in welcoming the great and my friend, Reggie Van Lee.
Five years ago, a friend of mine approached me with a fact and a hypothesis. The fact was, money is power. The hypothesis was, money of color existed enough to wield power. They did many years of research. That friend is my good friend Lola West, who then introduced me to Kathleen Tate in the course of the research that was done. And what they discovered was that the hypothesis was true, that there was power that was not being wielded in the way that it could be. And there was an opportunity to create an organization that would help us harness that power and wield that power. Thus became the Donors of Color Network, which was founded 2 years ago. Now, there's an old adage that says a picture is worth 1,000 words, and in this case, a video is worth 1,000,000 words. We have a video to show you that can tell this story much better than I ever could. Let's roll the video. And nothing gives me more pleasure than to present the 2021 March On Award to the Donors of Color Network and my dear friends Lola C. West and Kathleen Tate.
Good evening. Oh my God! You cannot imagine how excited and proud Lola West and I are to be here representing the Donors of Color Network, to accept this March On Award from the March on Washington Film Festival. I am Kathleen Tate, and as a founding member of DOCN, I just want to say just a few words about who we are and leave it to the esteemed Lola West to touch on some of what we do. DOCN is the first ever cross-racial community of high net worth donors. And we create a philanthropic and political home for those with the desire, means, and ability to influence and invest in systemic change and further racial equity. We center joy, power, and community in the work that we do. And we are developing groundbreaking research regarding this donor group. But we wouldn't be here today without our members and partners, and I especially want to thank the amazing staff at DOCN, Ashindi Maxton, Danielle, Dean, Ryan, and Isabel Layton. And speaking of thanks, I'm going to turn it over to Lola to make some more.
You know, it's a bit of a hard act to follow, but I'll try. So first of all, Reggie, I just want to thank you because every day of his life, Reggie personifies philanthropy. Every day. And we love you for it, Reggie. Thank you. I also want to acknowledge the March on Washington Film Festival for doing the research necessary to bring to you, their audience, various groups that you might not hear of. I'd like to also thank Urvashi Vad, who's not here, who had the thought of doing this. She and Ashindi did the first report on BIPOC people of color, which you can find on our website. I'm here to talk about one of the initiatives that we started. And that initiative is the Climate Funders Justice Pledge. The problem? Top climate funders continue to blatantly under-resource BIPOC-led justice-focused organizations who have outsized impact in the fight against climate change. The facts? $1.34 billion is awarded to 12 national environmental funders. Only 1.3% goes to BIPOC-led justice groups. And for those who don't get a whole lot of zeros, that's only $13 million out of $1.34 billion. What we did after preparing for a year, we launched the Climate Funders Justice Pledge in just 6 months ago, February 2021. We asked climate funders to commit publicly to greater transparency by sharing funding data and to give 30%, not as the top, but as the floor, of their climate funding to BIPOC power building groups. What happened? 21 foundations, including 7 of the top 40 climate funders, took all or part of the pledge. To learn more about the organization, please go to donorsofcolor.org. And for others, go to Twitter or LinkedIn and read about us. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Lola and Kathleen, and congratulations to the Donors of Color Network. Our next presenter has been active in the movement since her early participation in the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee starting in 1963. Among other credits, she was an associate producer for Eyes on the Prize, the groundbreaking 14-part PBS docuseries about the civil rights movement in the United States. She lectures nationally about the movement and serves on the SNCC Legacy Project Board of Directors, whose mission is to preserve and extend the legacy of that organization. Ladies and gentlemen, to present our next March On Award, it is my pleasure, and she's real excited, to introduce Judy Richardson.
Thank you, Jonathan. And by the way, I listen to you every Friday night. I tape PBS NewsHour. You are wonderful. Just to say that. Okay. I first met Sam Pollard in 1988 when the, lighting is interesting, when he joined the staff of Blackside Productions in Boston. And we were beginning production of part 2 of Eyes on the Prize. As Jonathan said, the seminal 14-hour PBS series on the civil rights movement. So what became immediately apparent about Sam was that, number one, he loved filmmaking. Number two, he had passion for history in all its complexity. And 3, he was tireless. I mean, the man works all the time. And I gotta say, at Blackside, you know, it's not like we were making big bucks, right? Because Blackside was an independent production company, black-owned. But what most struck me about Sam was his humanity. When conducting interviews, when working with the production team, when working with interns. Sam doesn't do hierarchy too swell. I most remember the interview he conducted with Big Black, one of the incarcerated organizers of the Attica prison revolt in 1971. And I was in that interview with him. And at the beginning of the interview, Black was responding somewhat superficially. But Sam connected with Big Black, and Black understood that he could trust Sam. And that's when Big Black really went deep. So in the Attica segment of Eyes on the Prize, in that second series, when you see Big Black cry, as he describes the atrocities committed by law enforcement officers after they retook the prison, you feel what he felt and what the others felt when that happened. Because Black knew that he could trust Sam with his story. Interviewees know that Sam is not just there to get their story for the film, for whatever film he's doing at the time. Sam actually cares about them and their histories. Sam can also reveal someone in a way that makes you see that person entirely differently. And he did this with his documentary on Sammy Davis Jr., where he enabled you to really understand the man, not by distorting the truth, but by revealing the fullness of the man in the context of the history. Now, I attended that screening here in D.C. at Busboys and Poets over on 14th Street, and suddenly, halfway through, the audio cut to a whisper. But all of us in that overflow audience fell silent in order to hear the very, very faint audio that still existed. That room went silent, and almost no one left. Then the technical problem was solved. Folks clapped very briefly, and they continued to intently watch the rest of the film. Now, this was a political crowd. I mean, Sammy Davis Jr., for most of us in that room, wasn't one of our famous people, right? I mean, he's not like he was Belafonte or something, right? So, but Sam had shown the fullness of the man, and we were hooked because of the way Sam understood how to tell that story. Sam is also someone who believes in mentoring young filmmakers in all their diversity. He's now doing a film that he interviewed a number of us SNCC people on for Lowndes County, Alabama. He offers his incredible skills to those whom he interns with, those whom he sponsors and mentors. He also offers them his name, which is really important for those who are trying to get funding. I could go on, but you need to hear from the man himself. So I am now just pleased as punch to present the prestigious 2021 March On Award to you, Sam Pollard. And where are you? Here he comes. All right.
Yeah, we're supposed to do a picture. Thank you very much. This is a fantastic honor to receive this award from the March on Washington Film Festival, who's been very, very kind to me and my films over the past number of years with 2 Trains Running and Sammy Davis Jr. And it's great to have this introduction done by the wonderful Judy Richardson, who's a fabulous, fabulous storyteller. You know, it's like a magical moment for me because I never imagined me as this young African-American boy growing up in East Harlem in the 50s and the 60s, that I would become a filmmaker, because that wasn't my initial goal. My initial goal was to make a lot of money and be rich. But that didn't happen. And I was very fortunate to get into a program, a film and television program in 1968 that had been started at public television after the assassination of Dr. King, to get more people of color behind the camera, in the editing room, producing and shooting films. And I became an editor. And I didn't really think I was going to do documentaries, because I had grown up watching lots of Hollywood movies, and then in the 60s watching films like The Learning Tree and the Sidney Poitier movies like The Defiant Ones and Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. But I was very fortunate to meet a editor who taught me about documentaries and the whole idea that when you do a documentary, you're really doing stories about real people, real experiences, and real life. And it became my passion to tell our stories. I thought it was very important to tell the stories of the African American experience. And I was also fortunate to meet another filmmaker named the late St. Clair Bourne, who basically instilled that in me, this importance of telling our stories. So that became the mission, my mission. And then in '88, when Henry Hampton took a chance on me to be a first-time director, you know, it was a scary, scary experience, because I've been an editor for about 14 years. And Henry invited me to Boston to be a director, and that was a real baptism of fire. But I learned to be a director. I learned to interview, as Judy was talking about the interview I did with Big Black. And I've become so much more engaged and involved in documentary filmmaking and loving it so much and passionate about it. And it's just so ironic that last week I was at the Capitol interviewing Congressman Clyburn for another documentary. So I didn't know he was going to be here tonight. So again, this is like, you know, one of these things you say, after 40 years in this business, people are recognizing some of the work I've done, and the work is what I treasure. And the passion and mentoring of filmmakers is what I also treasure. So again, I want to thank the March on Washington Film Festival for this great, great honor. Thank you very much.
Once again, thank you and congratulations, Sam Pollard, on your award. The John Robert Lewis Lifetime Legacy Award is presented annually to an individual whose life's work has sought to advance the dignity of all people, no matter their circumstances. Through grit, determination, and often personal and physical sacrifice, they, like the award's namesake, have fought tirelessly on behalf of our better angels. Appropriately, our final presenter this evening is also no stranger to the world of filmmaking. And in 2018, as she was launching her bid to unseat a 4-term incumbent congressman in a highly competitive district, she became the subject of the full-length documentary film Surge, which clearly is happening in this mic. I am sorry. She won that race, and upon being sworn into office in 2019, became the first woman, the first person of color, and the first millennial to represent the 14th District of Illinois in Congress. Ladies and gentlemen, to present the John Robert Lewis Lifetime Legacy Award, please welcome Congresswoman Lauren Underwood.
Well, thank you, Jonathan. It's an incredible honor to be with all of you here tonight to celebrate the vision, the work, and the achievements of some incredible thought leaders towards creating a more just and equitable future for our country. And it's a special honor for me to recognize the lifelong contributions of Congressman Jim Clyburn, Majority Whip, a man who spent his entire life, his mind, his body, and his spirit, bending the arc of the moral universe towards justice. Now, many of you know his public accomplishments. His 10, 20, 30 formula has brought much-needed federal investments to communities experiencing persistent poverty. He has fought to elevate and preserve an inclusive history in South Carolina's people and cultures, establishing national heritage corridors, parks, and monuments throughout the state, and helping to restore historically Black school buildings and other historic sites. And of course, he spoke out at a crucial moment in the 2020 election cycle and helped turn the tide that ultimately ensured that President Joe Biden would win the historic election. But tonight, I'd like to talk about what Mr. Clyburn does to bend the arc behind the scenes, the work that often goes unnoticed and unpraised. And that's the work that he's done to invest in Black excellence in politics and the next generation of policy leaders. Now, when I arrived in Washington as the youngest Black woman ever elected to Congress and the first woman and person of color elected to represent my district, thank you. It was Whip Clyburn who provided invaluable guidance as I grew into my new role as a representative. Now, throughout my time in Congress, he's been a grounding and centering presence while empowering new members like me with the skills and the knowledge to successfully represent our communities here in Washington. In my first term, I remember so clearly he convened a meeting between the CBC Black Caucus freshmen and top appropriators to help us effectively advocate for our constituents in critical federal funding negotiations. And even now, as an appropriator myself, I'm still putting those lessons into practice. To this day, Whip Clyburn remains a fierce ally who consistently shows up for me and insists that new members of color get a seat at the table. Nurturing new leaders, young leaders, has been Whip Clyburn's way since he first ran for office. He got his start as a teacher, and in many ways, he's never stopped teaching. Now, up until the pandemic, he was still giving tours of the Capitol to Black students in a teacher training program that he started, encouraging them to pursue their dreams and continuing challenging the power structures he spent his career dismantling piece by piece. In Congress, he teaches us to find a powerful balance between idealism and pragmatism, to center justice and equity in our work, and to never lose sight of what's morally right. He has earned the trust of so many young leaders like myself by practicing what he preaches. And let me tell you, as the son of a minister, Whip Clyburn knows how to preach. I think that every member of the CBC has heard him deliver a sermon or two, and at least once, about how public servants are like turtles. The shell protects you, and you're safe inside the shell. But if you want to get anywhere, you have to stick your neck out. And Mr. Clyburn has stuck his neck out time and time and time again to do what's right. From being jailed while protesting segregation to his courageous leadership in Congress for nearly 30 years, he always leads by example. One of the principles that anchors my work is that good policy starts with good representation. People in power set the agenda based on what they know. So when you don't have a range of perspectives and experiences represented, you end up with blind spots. Mr. Clyburn understands the power of a seat at the table better than anyone. He's been leading us forward in the most consequential corridors of power his whole life, from the Charleston City Council to the United States Congress. So it is my great honor to thank him, not only for his friendship and his mentorship, but for his decades of service to our country, and to proudly present him with the John Robert Lewis Lifetime Legacy Award.
Really appreciate it. You really surprised us too. Thank you very, very much. I just told Lauren she is full of surprises. I don't know how many times I spoke with her today, and she never gave me any indication that I would see her tonight. But I want to thank her, and I want to thank my colleagues who are here. I saw Jimmy Panetta, and I'm looking at my good friend Bonnie Watson Coleman and her husband, Donald Payne Jr. Thank you guys for being here. I guess Donald is still here. He may not be. I know Donald, so he may have left already. I don't know if I've seen any other colleagues who are here. I don't want to prolong the program, so I'm not going to ask them to come forward. But I want my cousin William and my daughter Mignon to please stand. And I want my alter ego, Yebby Watkins, please stand. Now, I have other staff who are here, but Yebby Watkins has been my chief of staff for all of but 8 months of the 29 years that I've been in the Congress. And he has been like a son. One day I was involved in something and I was debating an issue and he chimed in. And I was a bit befuddled because he was not supposed to know that. That was something that I thought was confined to my home. And so after the meeting was over, I went over to him and I said, "How did you know that?" He said, "Man, I was in and out of your house all the time when I was growing up." And that's when I found out that he had this relationship with my wife and daughters that I knew nothing about. But I want to thank family and friends, the folks from the faith and politics. Thank you guys for allowing me, the frustrated preacher, to develop with the principles learned in Matthew 25:45. But to me, what's more important is the ability and the opportunity to use one's talents in order to present and give to this nation what you can give. My dad taught me leadership, though he thought he was teaching me to follow him into the ministry. But after getting out of jail for about the third or fourth time, as a student at South Carolina State, I went home to tell my dad that I thought that I changed my mind and I was not going to go to the seminary. I thought he would be disappointed, and he probably was. But he said to me on that occasion, "Well, son," he said, "I suspect the world would much rather see a sermon than to hear one." And that's what has guided me throughout my life. And so to be getting an award named in honor of John Robert Lewis, who I met in October 1960. The two of us were 19-year-old college students meeting in the second meeting of SNCC. The first one was up at Shaw University in the spring of 1960, and this was an organizing meeting on Morehouse campus in October 1960. I met John Lewis on that day, Martin Luther King Jr. that evening, and as you may remember, some of you, there was just a little bit of a debate going on between us youngsters and SCLC. And Martin Luther King Jr. came to the campus for us to really share with him what our feelings were. We met that night around 10 o'clock for what's supposed to have been an hour. We left the room around 4:30 a.m. the next morning. That was my Saul to Paul transition. And I have never, ever gotten beyond what I learned that night. John Lewis was very special to me. I adopted the philosophy of nonviolence as a tactic. John Lewis internalized it, and he became everything that philosophy was all about. In about 3 or 4 days, I saw his former chief here earlier. A rumor went out about 5 or 6 days before he passed away, which I just did not believe, and I called Michael and got him on the phone, and I says, "What is this?" He said, "He is still here. Do you want to talk to him?" And he handed John the phone, and he and I said our farewells, because I knew that would be the last time that I would talk to him. I just hope that I live long enough to prove myself worthy of this award that you've given me in his name. Thank you.
I just want to go on record and say that Majority Whip Clyburn, what you did just now is totally unfair. Because I am trying to hold it together after that beautiful speech. I think I speak for all of us when I say we miss John Lewis every day. But thank God you are still here. It's also 9:01, and I want to be mindful of the time, particularly your time and the members of Congress's time, because apparently you might be on call for a vote. So I want to say thank you to all of our awardees, presenters, and of course to you for joining us tonight. The gala might be drawing to a close, but the March on Washington Film Festival is just beginning. If you haven't done so already, I encourage you to sign up for your festival passes now. If you are in D.C., we have 3 in-person signature events that I want to call special attention to. Tomorrow night, right here at Dock 5, we will present the Vivian Malone Courage Award to Pulitzer Prize-winning investigative journalist and creator of the 1619 Project, Nicole Hannah-Jones. Then on Saturday evening, we will host a tribute to Fred Gray, celebrating the life and career of the legendary civil rights attorney who defended Rosa Parks as a young lawyer. And then on Monday night at the Eden Hotel, we'll explore and discuss the importance of trailblazing LGBTQ rights activist, the Reverend Dr. Pauli Murray. You can register for your festival passes right now by scanning the QR codes on the flyers at your tables, so pull out those phones. And don't pretend like you don't have one in your hand right now, because I've seen some of you all night. For those of you participating in the gala virtually, all 3 of our signature events will be live streamed, and the full library of content presented at this year's festival is available on demand. So please visit www.marchonwashingtonfilmfestival.org to register for your passes or to make a donation to the festival. And finally, please join me in welcoming back to the stage Frédéric Yonnet, accompanied by the Shiloh Baptist Church Gospel Choir.
Come on. Give me the tempo.
My sins away. Oh, it's a happy He taught me oh yeah. And he taught me how to live. sins away. Oh, happy day.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us for the 2021 March on Washington Film Festival Opening Night Gala. Please enjoy the rest of the festival and your evening. Good night and march on.